Afternoon, everyone. It's November. It's a new month. It's a new life. So let me start inviting my co-host. Hello, everyone. How is everyone? Okay, so let me invite Alice, who I frequently collaborated with, to the channel. Oh my god. I know this week is a little odd, right? But I hope everyone is having a good time. Are you there?
Hi.
Oh my God, this is the first time I'm able to invite my co-host like immediately. Wait a second, why did you leave? For a second, I'm like, why? Let me just invite Alice again. Okay, I don't know
Okay.
what happened. I was really proud. I was like, oh my God, I finally can start a live that it doesn't take me like 10 minutes. But okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Scorpio season. This one's a good one. I was like doing like my research and like kind of thinking about like, why I like astrology is really about like energy. It's a way to read energy and energetically. I was just like, for some reason, Scorpio is really, really important. Like I'm just like I've been talking about it all year. I'm just like Scorpios tell the truth. They are intimidating because they're so smart, so ambitious, and they jab you with the truth sometimes. And you're just like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know it was like that. But really, really important. I can't wait to share more.
Welcome everybody. Okay, it's November. It's my birthday month. I'm a,
Yeah, it is.
if you can't tell already, okay? I'm a three generation Scorpio. So I'm so excited to have Alice today, the famous astrologer, and to join me so we can talk about astrology, seasonal care. There's actually like a lot of things Chinese medicine says about November and also just like Scorpios and the winter months in general. So can't wait to share with you guys. So Alice, why don't you start? Give us the guiding light. What is happening?
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing another live. I love our conversations. And for those who don't know me, I'm a career astrologer. I specifically focus on Western astrology, but every time it's in the Lunar New Year, I will share kind of like um, around astrology. Scorpio season. We've been a time for me.
Alice, your your signal is off. Your voice is breaking.
Be better now.
Yeah,
Just give me
I
one
think I'm
second. Oh,
you're
it should
breaking
be better
up.
now. What about now?
Yeah, you might have to repeat what you said.
But now I think you should be able to hear me.
Yeah, now,
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Continue.
great. So, Scorpio season, we've been in it for a couple weeks, and it is such a powerful time of change and transformation. Particularly in this month of November, we are dealing with a lot of lessons around empowerment, power, and money. And one of the things I've been repeating during Scorpio season is the revealing of uncomfortable truths. There are some uncomfortable truths. Yeah. And this is the worst for Scorpios because Scorpios usually dish it, but when they've learned over the last few years to really receive it, and especially because we had a really potent, powerful full moon in Scorpio at the end of April. I mean, everybody was going crazy in April for other reasons that we won't have time to get into today. But because of that full moon in Scorpio, so many of the Scorpio placements were super activated. And what's to come next year really is going to require Scorpio energy as well. So in this season, we just have a recognition of what needs to be changed in our lives, and the change and transformation that we are ready to embark on. And it's a big one. From the new moon in Scorpio we had on November 1st, we have 6 months now to kind of really make this transformation, and for many, a glow up happen.
Wow. That is a lot. I'm also curious, is everybody who is joining Scorpio? I'm like seeing like so many. We should just form our own private club and start water, but like that's really interesting. I mean, I want you, if you don't mind, dig a little
Yeah,
bit into it, right?
of course.
Times,
You want the details.
exactly, we want the details, right? We want the gist, and the insight. I mean, like we all know that Scorpios are famous for being very strong-willed and committed. We often don't tell you what we're doing until you see it. You're like, oh, they've done it. But in these uncertain times, when in the face of like multiple choices and certainty, oh, Bess, happy birthday! Someone's birthday today, so
Oh,
that's great.
happy birthday.
And what do you think is the most important thing for Scorpio to find that magic that always guides us? Really
Oh,
deep.
I have been yes, I've been talking about this. I always Scorpio season, I get a lot of like Scorpio suns, moons, rising. But if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, if you have a lot of eights show up, like planets in the eighth house, um, this is a time where you're kind of reconnecting with your truth, reconnecting for yourself. And something I've been telling my Scorpio friends is that you have to go to the places where you are appreciated. Oftentimes you trigger people. You trigger people so badly, sometimes it's really hard for you to work a typical 9 to 5 job. The best roles for like my Scorpio dominant placements are going to be consultant roles, entrepreneurial roles. You have so much ambition, such strong attention to detail, extremely data focused, that I do feel like, especially in your younger years, like people like can't handle the insights you're sharing or the information that you're giving. They get very intimidated. And something interesting to note is not only do you have to go to the places where you're going to be appreciated, which means you can't be saying the truth to everyone. I know it's very natural to you. It's so obvious, but it's not obvious to other people. So that's something really important to remember. But also knowing that you are affected by those around you. You deeply, deeply feel. So keeping yourself in good company is extremely important.
I get back on my private Scorpio club idea, guys. Sign us up. I wanna. It's really interesting you say this because I think I don't know about other signs, but for Scorpios, we really need to live the truth. We're uncomfortable if we cannot live the truth, and this
Yes.
is relevant in Chinese medicine, as I always say. Right,
Mm,
is a reality that when a lot of patients will come to me and say like, I feel I have a out of body experience, I don't feel
mm,
myself, I feel like that truth and authenticity, that creativity, I simply cannot nourish, I cannot act upon that creativity. And this is why Chinese medicine has been around for almost 3,000 years. We treat the mental and the physical because whenever there is a deep something happening with your digestive core, that is the grounding truth that nourishes your grounding truth, your creativity, you're going to feel like you're no longer like yourself. And for Scorpio, I think many people will then simply retreat into the darkness of the winter and say like, well, there it is, this is the end of the year, it's November, I'm done, I'm like done for the year. And then people get really grumpy and unhappy during holiday seasons, or maybe it's just me, but like I, so
Seasonal depression.
yeah, exactly. So I totally get that. We're not good with small talks, right? And then this is why I feel like Scorpios more than other signs during big family gatherings, big
Yeah.
givings, really need to hold the truth. Oh, thank you, Shadow Work Boss, about green tea. I love it. Yeah, I know. I'm ruining a bunch of people's lattes like green tea, but I don't care. But good, that message reached you. So that's why it's so important when you add these family functions, when you feel like you have to put up front. How,
It's
how do
just
you?
terrible. It's terrible for you. So what I like to say is like you have to create some distance, some energetic distance, some mental distance, because literally, let's say you go into a family situation or a really big party. First of all, like you keep your circles very small. Like the larger the party, the more irritated you're probably going to feel just because you're like, this is not quality time. I don't care about half of these people. This is a waste of time. No one's actually talking about anything. We're eating food. I don't even think this is food that I want to eat. This is not good enough food for me. These are bad foods. So like keeping your obligations to ones that you really care about, like smaller things. But if you have to go to something big, just like kind of like make sure I like to call it like the bubble protection meditation, just like bubble yourself so you don't get affected by other people. And I know that it's extremely easy for you to see like, I saw this person last year, or I saw this person 6 months ago. They were talking about the same thing. This is literally driving me insane. But the fact that if you just set an intention before each social interaction of being, I'm going to meet the right people. Because at each big gathering, you're always going to find one or two people that are just also like, I know why I'm here. I'm just here because I need to be. And I can't wait to go home. And then you guys can really connect with one another. And maybe there is someone at the party, at the gathering, that really needs to hear the truth.
I think it's really interesting you say that, because often what I find, given the Scorpio season, the months of the winter, right? And I think someone put it in the chat, and I think that was so interesting. You put like you feel more creative in the winter months. That's because in Chinese medicine, for the Scorpios in us, the winter is associated with the organ that's the kidney. And it's
Mm.
the life force that is the only organ that really embodies, that has two organs. There is two kidneys, right? So there is the kidney yin and kidney yang. In the winter months, the darkness, the water element really nourish that kidney. So a lot of us this is a time for reflections. This is a time for you to really sit down and act upon that creativity. However, my friends, here is the thing. When you're so kidney yang deficient, that means you have no warmth whatsoever. You're just in Lord Darth Vader, completely in with the darkness. Then you have a situation where you will appear very subdued. So that's the reason why a lot of the Scorpios in particular will act as if they have seasonal affective disorder, coming from a colder months, right? Where in your head, you're having the most creative, like, movie ever, but nobody can tell. On the, like, I'm just unhappy. Like, people like, are you just having a resting bitch face like 24/7? So like, those are things that you need to nurture. The winter and the water element doesn't just come to you naturally, right? In Chinese medicine, especially in the winter, you got to do things to counter the negative force of the water, which is essentially cold retention, and do that kind of seasonal care so we can have the space to find a room and be on our own. So I really like that, because I have definitely heard Scorpios who just like at family functions who just lost it, who will
They lose their shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't invite that person anymore because they're not nice. But it's just really interesting because from the perspective of a Scorpio, they're always going to tell the truth, and the truth can get them into trouble. You're never wrong. Very rarely are you wrong, but it's about the timing.
Yeah, no, isn't that right, my friends?
Yes. Are you saying it at the right time? Like I can always tell, like, especially if somebody has a Mercury Scorpio, and if they're like younger, I'm just like, oh, like you've got a lot to learn about like how you communicate, because they are someone who can be perceived as very manipulative, because in their mind, Mercury is the mind and like thought process. They are like, okay, what do I need to get from point A to point B? And to some people, it might be like interpreted as someone who's just like kind of scheming, but I like to say that it's like very strategic. They know exactly how to move the chess pieces, but also sometimes when they're sharing how they're feeling, what they deem to be true, like it just comes off like intense because it's just the truth. And if you're working in a corporate setting, it's very coded. It's very coded what you can say, what you can't say, the hierarchy, who you're with. So it's one of the reasons why I think, you know, to a certain extent, like Scorpios really do best when they're come in to solve a problem or to really kind of like illuminate like this is what we have from like a data set, or this is what we really need to do moving forward. Like you have to be appreciated for your gifts. And a lot of Scorpios that have come to me for like my readings, they're not appreciated because they're not in the right roles.
This is a question I always wanted to ask you.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you
You
feel
waited so
waited so
long.
long? I
Why?
waited for live to share with all
What's
your
this
followers.
question?
Do you think there is a fundamental difference, so to speak, between males who are Scorpios and people who identify as female Scorpios?
Hmm. So I think it's more about like how you grew up and like your version of reality, because another element of Scorpio that I wanted to mention earlier but then I forgot is and it's just so interesting to say this. I would love to know in the chat. The chat is like not updating for me, but I'm sure like it's updating for you, so let me know what comes up, or maybe no one's
No.
commented.
Oh,
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
people have commented. I'm like trying to keep up with our combo. Someone
Oh.
Scorpios is secretive, especially on their birthday month. Guys, secretive. I feel like I'm the least secretive person ever, and I'm like 3 generations Scorpio through.
There's some other placements. I think I can't remember your chart. I have to look back. You have your report too. I sent you your expanded report. I don't know if you ever looked at it.
I need to double check. Has it landed for some reason in the riddle? And then people say like Scorpios speak in riddles. Guys, do I speak in riddles? Obviously, I'm like a random sample, right? Can people do we collectively as Scorpios think we speak in riddles? You know,
They're
I do think sometimes when we are put in a situation that we are not comfortable with.
you just don't have as many words.
Well,
Like succinct. Like you're just kind of like, this is the truth.
I think it's more like, to me personally, if I'm in an uncomfortable position, I would start adopting a fake British accent because and that makes me feel more comfortable. Because I'm including, and I'm like, whenever that happens, I will start speaking riddles, and you're like, oh, that's funny.
Yes.
I realize I haven't said anything.
So I remember why, because I was like, you have a couple Sagittarius placements. They're very like gregarious. And you also have your sun in the third house, which is ruled by Gemini, super social air sign. So that's why like you have the elements of someone who's very, very social. It's funny because you're like a social Scorpio.
That makes me sound like a little bit of a psychopath, but thank you. No, the sarcasm thing or the Scorpio.
That's a Sagittarius thing. You have a moon in Sagittarius. It's very comedic.
Yeah, the dry sarcasm.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God. I need all these Scorpios who are commenting, you speak direct. I need everyone's number. Can we please form a tea club? Because, like, yeah, it's important. It's so important.
Yes.
I do want to ask, it's interesting you say that. What happens when a Scorpio person does a job that doesn't fit their truths? Like it doesn't fit their.
Oh, it's terrible because it like really so to wrap up the thing that I was going to share before, which is relevant for this, it's terrible because there's a lot of resentment. They feel they feel like they're so much smarter than everybody else. So they're angry at work and there's like, oh, why is this person like they're always kind of like pissed off. They're not very friendly. They don't want to do team building things. It's because they believe that they are so much smarter. They're not being utilized. That's like the worst thing. They have so much ambition. They like they can do so much, but if they're not in the right role, then they're just kind of just like, how do I show up? I don't feel empowered. I feel kind of like weak. I don't feel like myself. Like and if they are in a role that they do very well in, but it's like it hasn't been positioned correctly at work, there's a lot of jealousy. That's the thing that I was going to say. There's a lot of jealousy that happens, particularly if you have a Scorpio sun, moon, rising, or south node. You've got some drama at work. So there's drama at work sometimes, and there's drama in your personal life. pretty much everyone that I've seen with these types of placements, there is an obsession that some people have about you, like at some point in your life. It could be like people are like fangirling you because of like the work that you've shared, the work that you've done. There could be like romantic interest. Like people always want to know what a Scorpio is doing because they are a little bit aloof, extremely magnetic. So there's always that kind of like there's a jealousy component maybe that comes through. Also just like people feel very like magnetized, drawn to Scorpios.
Would that mean that, by any chance, if someone is a New Yorker and a Scorpio, the worst possible combo, have the world's driest sense of humor and sarcasm, that should have been me when I put on my Tinder profile. Yeah.
but it's funny because sometimes they're just like, I just want to be alone, but then they just get so much attention, so much attention. So it's really funny. So to go back to like your question of like, oh, like, how does it affect like, men or women? Like it just really depends on the situation of like how they grew up, what they think their world is like, their own version of reality. And from a working standpoint, it's the resentment that builds up. It's like you're just not emotionally, mentally stimulated, so you just feel like you're wasting away, and that wasting away is like gnawing at you
It's
inside.
interesting you say that because most of my Scorpio patients, and I'm talking about
Hmm.
Scorpio patients as well, we're talking about 40 years of a lot of these patients were born, in whatever, late October and November. We constantly talk about this interesting, almost like conundrum among Scorpios,
Mm.
where people have an overactive mind and a overly, not tired, but a physical body that has a hard time playing catching up.
Mm.
So the
It's
so the reason why I ask you about men and women is
mm.
because I know I have majority women followers. I have a lot of like, biologically male and trans. I love everybody. What you will find interesting is a lot
Mm.
of Scorpio man will have three characters. Think about everyone think about yourself and think
Uh-huh.
about your, one thing is a low grade anxiety. So you're totally right. I think it stems from the fact that you think you're smarter than everybody else, or you probably are, yet doing a job that is well below your capacity and your intellectual level. And I, so that's for men. It's very interesting. And most of the time they will not say anything. So it will become like a slow burn
Mm.
situation, almost as such. So exactly like Michael said, I get frustrated when people can't follow a logical path. Right? I'm just like,
You're like, are
yeah,
you dumb?
like,
And then the British accent,
yeah,
are you dumb?
you're like,
Are you
you
following?
said your piece and you're frustrated. Like, why are you not following? So like Scorpio, and if you're a software developer, you're like, gee, I am scared of being your coworker. Like, if you do any kind of science stuff, you're the one who's like, this is wrong, that is wrong, and this is what you're supposed to do. And then you get frustrated when people don't. So like,
Yes.
because of that, I often find among my biological male patients, like there is always the issue of a low grade, like there is a constant low vibe of like frustration and anxiety. And the second one is almost a seasonal affective disorder that's
Mm.
not necessarily, for some people, it's not mental. It's more, have you met people who you're just like, are you mad, but you're not angry, but you can't tell their facial expressions? Man, and you're just like, what is happening? Like the constant resting bitch face, but on
Mm.
a that is very often a Scorpio man's MO. Now, what are some of the health issues you need to watch out for men where Scorpios are low back issues, vitality issues? So you might not have a problem with sexual arousal, but like it's low. The spark is low because Scorpio kidney yang, that means excessive water. There isn't, you have the capacity, you have the intellectual power, but you're like you're more the less frequent but good time people, right? So like what you need to watch out for in the winter months is really low back. You randomly throw your back, like, sexual performance, and like, and the third thing is brain fog, burnout, deep health issues that's related to the digestion. And this is work of it. So if you're biologically male or female and you're a Scorpio and you have a tongue that's very puffy, that looks like that tongue has been soaked in a tub of wet, like, bath water for 30 minutes, call me. Don't suffer silently. Okay. So like those are some of the things. Do women who are Scorpio suffer from that also? Yes. But it's a little bit more nuanced. I think for men, it's silent kind of issue.
I want to ask you something, because when I do readings for like my Scorpio clients, or I see kind of Scorpio come up in their chart a bunch of times, or like planets in the eighth house, it's like kind of like two things. One, they could feel like they don't have a good creative and also sexual outlet. And then the other one is like they are too distracted with like their sex drive. Scorpios are known, I want to hear, I can't see the comments, but I want you to put in the comments, because if anyone's going to be a sex addict, it's going to be a Scorpio. So that's the other side. Like they're too distracting, and the energetic component, like every sexual partner you have, it's like your energy is intertwined, and even if you physically leave like that person, you're still affected. And because Scorpios are water signs, they just feel so much. So people are thinking about Scorpios all the time, and you just feel like energetically people have their hand on you.
Do we have our hands on people? Can people comment? Just see a yes. Well, one thing is interesting you mentioned that, because I think for both men and women, when you're kidney yang deficient, you have too much water in your system. There are two ways you can go about it. And I had a conversation with a known porn star, I'm not going to say who kind of confirmed it. Okay. And one thing is Gemini, what are you doing here? Guys, you all need to know.
Be nice.
Like, welcome, because jokes aside, it's about seasonal care also, so anyone can benefit from this talk. So one thing is really that there is excessive water. When you get cold so much, especially if it were a biological female, sex is the fastest way to warm you up. No, I mean, it's true. You want to balance it off with another person's energy that will give you that instinct, like warmth. And this applies more to people who are younger than 40. I'm not saying people over 40 we don't have great sex life or anything like that, but so I think for women that seems to be the case, and it's a very intimate language kind of thing, right? Because water is really, one can say, the element of the mother of all elements, so to speak. The other shell is, if you go through life without caring for yourself, you think too much, like you said, like you're frustrated too much, you're easily liver cheese stagnant, then the last thing on your mind is to relax and have sex. The last thing, so it could turn either way. So it's
like bottling. It's like Scorpios, they keep everything inside, and it can be very explosive all at once. Like they could just erupt and be like, you're not doing this right, or I'm feeling very emotional. Like they hold their emotions like very close to their heart. It's like when the duck is swimming. The duck seems calm, but it's like little like feet are just like paddling.
So you will often see people who are Scorpio will either have issue, like they have 0 minus libido. There is no interest. This is the last thing on their mind. And that usually comes with a lot of stagnation, right? Better is childhood trauma, is because you're just simply too busy, like, anything. Like that's when the water is too dark, right? The darkness of the water, as we say it in Chinese medicine. Then you can also be on the other flip of the coin, where you still have a lot of that upward motion fire, and then so despite the fact you have a lot of water, it's okay. And this usually happens to the younger Scorpios, where people, like, they can be the best lovers, and people really communicate that way. So it's really, I think it's important for Scorpios to, it's interesting you say like speak your truth, right? For Scorpio,
yes.
But I think it's also really important for Scorpio to always unleash that intuition that we have, that psychic nature we have, and take honest and take a deep look into your mental psyche, into your physical health and be honest with yourself and think about maybe some things are not right, right? And you should think it earlier than later, because Scorpios, when you're having so much of issues, one thing can tumble into another, into another, into another. So what I usually note with Scorpio, even with my patients, is a lot of people have a situation where they're in a constant melancholy state. Like, you get excited, they just can't get excited. Other people are excited. You're like, there is nothing to be excited.
They're jaded. They're in the jaded,
like a jaded thing, right? Like, and that is not, that's partially Scorpio, but is also a huge element of the fact that there isn't enough of fire, enough of ignition to make you feel interested. And that is very dangerous for Scorpio, because for male in particular, this is when you will lose that sexual function. You start not being interested in doing anything. There is a reason why it's called menopause, is the pause of the man, I would like to think, not just women. So Scorpio men after 45 will tend to suffer from more of the depression, of a more of a downward motion illness. So a lot of that.
Great insights. Great insights. Scorpios, do we feel seen?
Yeah.
We love to be seen, but also do not love to be seen.
It's okay, guys. We're all anonymous other than me and Alice. So it's like the only person who is admitting they're Scorpios are me right now. But people, like everybody, what if you're loving life and not caring about sex? What do you think, Alice? I'm going to give you this question.
Well, the thing is, for certain signs, like Scorpio and Aquarius, like really up until recently, the last few years, like you couldn't really be yourself. From the Scorpio perspective, it's just like people don't appreciate the truth. We were kind of talking like in lies for a very long time and kind of doing things we didn't want to do. Like, I think with the pandemic, a lot of things shifted and changed. We are about to enter a phase next year where, you know, intuition, spirituality, creativity, imagination are going to be super, super important. And as we move forward, as you know, with like period 9 with Pluto in Aquarius, there is, oh, I think my AirPods just died. Let me see. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so there is going to be, and it has already happened this year, an opening to be yourself, to be able to speak the truth, because what we need now more than ever, and I've been saying this all year, I'm like, we need more Scorpios. We need more Scorpios in the right places to tell us the truth, to tell us this is what we need to do to make things better. With our friends, our Aquarius friends, who are very innovative, very forward-thinking, really humanitarian. I mean, these two signs coming together and really like feeling more empowered to be who they are will get us to where we need to be, not only as a society, but as like human beings as well. So it's just, it could be like, you know, you haven't been tapping into your intuition, your creativity. There's like that next level. And I think that with this new moon in Scorpio we had last week, there are some really beautiful opportunities to set intentions around activating your intuitive power, activating your creativity, your sexual drive, because the sexual drive from like a chakra system, you know, that is the second chakra, the sacral chakra, but it's also the place of creation and passion, of desires and of joy. And I think many of us go through phases or have been in a long phase of not being able to tap into our full desires. And some of that is through creativity, through intuition and sexuality. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things that come to the surface next year, especially because we will have our wood snake year beginning, I believe, on January 28th, 2020, which is most closely associated with what sign? What sign you say? Scorpio.
One thing like you've said so many amazing things, but someone left a comment about like you just want to go for a run for to relieve the stress. I want to talk about 3 best exercises for my Scorpio friends. Are you guys ready? Yay! Okay, so the first one is a run. However, friends, Scorpio man, if you already have poor blood circulation or Raynaud's, you're at a vulnerable position to low back pain. So running might not be your best friend. I'm giving you my second favorite is indoor rowing, a rowing machine. Because the whole point, everybody who are Scorpio, is that you know when you water a plants, right? And some plants die because there is too much water in it, and some plants, you have to achieve that balance, right? And for Scorpio, you will always have that water there to nourish your creativity and your health. But you don't want that to be an over-soaked situation. So you want to use something to really move the overall body metabolism of your body. So this is a whole body overall sports. We're not like other people. Like I wouldn't even say like yoga is your best sports. It's not. Like, I mean, I for Scorpio for one cannot stand yoga. I'm sorry. I my mind, I'm just like, we're not done with this. I'm already like miles away. You gotta do something that requires your whole body. Ideally, you do this in the body of wood. That is the green. You don't need to go to more ocean side. You have excessive water already. You need something that's more sun and more greens, and is the element of wood, and that is usually a hike. So hike is definitely my third favorite thing for Scorpio when it comes to exercise. You know, with your AirPods or without your AirPods, like, it's really the best thing. We're different from, you want to be in a place where you can feel safely in your solitude. And that is more like it. So salsa dancing, I don't know, any Scorpios who does like salsa dancing, love it. Yeah, kudos to
the sheets.
exactly.
Dancing in the sheets.
Hiking, dancing is great, and whatever usually what gets you moving. But this is also the time for Scorpio solo running, you know, hiking or rowing. You're doing it on your own, because you, more than other people, you have to rest that mind. And that mind cannot be, especially during the winter months when we're all reflecting on our mistakes this year, how we get better next year, right? Like we overthink, let's be honest, we overthink and we overanalyze. And then like you're coming up with different mass equilibrium. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But point being, you forcefully rest that mind. And that doesn't mean you need to stay at home. I know that's our preferred sport. Me also, reading a book always. But you have to drag yourself outdoors, and you have to drag yourself rolling. And I can see Andrew's sisterhood, is that Elizabeth? Like rowing, be in nature, be on your own. You don't need to talk to people if you don't want. Take your dog or whatever. And that's my 3 best suggestions. But Alice, I do want to ask you, what is your thought in Scorpios who are interested in changing their job or straight up quit this time of this year?
Okay. So what I want to add one thing to like wellness practices, breath work. Breath work works through a lot of uncomfortable emotions that Scorpios feel but can't always process. Breath work is very, very good. Okay, so what happens if a Scorpio wants to quit their job this season? Right? That's your question.
Yeah.
So I would say, because of that new moon in Scorpio that we had just a couple days ago, just last week, this is a really good time to set intentions about how you can feel more powerful, like in your work. It also just kind of depends on your rising sign as well. But for those who aren't happy in their jobs and have like a very important Scorpio placement, you want to be very specific about and honest with yourself. I think that's the challenging thing. If you feel out of place at work or something's amiss in your life, it doesn't have to be work related. You have to find another Scorpio or someone sees you very clearly, because you are not seeing yourself clearly enough to really make use of all of your gifts, all of your talents. And so find someone who's going to be a mirror back to you and tell you, hey, you know, have you been looking into this? Have you been doing that? These are some other things that you could be looking into that would be great jobs or businesses to start. And like I said, like Scorpios really make wonderful consultants. You could be very happy in the same organization, but you have a different role of being an individual contributor, or kind of coming like leaving as a W-2 9 to 5 employee and coming back and being like a consultant, a freelancer, someone who's very focused on one project and getting that done.
That's really interesting. That's exactly what I did. I mean, like, for those of you who don't know, I've been an economist for a decade, and then I started my own company. That existential crisis you feel because you're constantly thinking about, I can't fit in. You're not meant to, and that's okay. And it takes a while to get there, but we will get there. Now, I know we're short for time, but I promised I will talk about women Scorpios, what we need to look out for the winter. So here it comes, okay? So one thing is clotted, painful period. Sorry, starting with the unpleasant. Winter months, and especially for Scorpios, if you already have poor blood circulation, especially if you already have renals, the clotted period and extra pain, or even for people who have endometriosis, winter is not your friend. So pain, unfortunately, mixed with clotted blood is going to be a signature of that. Okay. I think I've had more than a handful of reel to teach you what to do to alleviate that symptom at home. But obviously, if it continues for longer than 3 months, you know how to find me. Number two, I want to talk about seasonal affective disorder. This is across board, but I think for men, it's not as obvious as for women Scorpio. For basically a lot of people, if you notice that, unless you live in California, where Alice and I are blessed with the sun like most of the time, if you're living in East Coast, that change is instant. And then instantly, if you start feeling, my energy is not the same as before. I feel really tired. I want to be a couch potato secretly every day, but I don't want to say it. And those, this at the moment you need to watch out for, okay? The important thing I always say, guys, is to, when in difficult times, double down on the routine. In uncertain time, you need to double down on what you do. Priorities of your life should be 3 meals a day, take care of yourself, personal hygiene, do 1 hour of meditation, whatever that makes you happy, do 1 hour of Wu Wei, go for your steps, do your exercise. If you can accomplish that, that should be your priorities. It shouldn't be how much work I accomplished today. I know for us all Scorpios, everyone wants to like quantify our life in Excel sheet. I do that too, trust me. But this is not the time of year you do that. You want to really always prioritize your own health, because this is a fragile time for us. It's like bears hibernate, Scorpios pretty much the same. So, and lastly, for my women friends there, it's the same. It's actually sexual interest. If you find yourself having a lot of interest this time of the year or no interest, I want to just say, and I have to do something about this, orgasm is always, always, always amazing for women. There is literally no side effect. And like for men, that's another topic. For women, there is rarely any side effect of orgasm. And take your time. I know we're also crazy about keeping time. We're definitely not the enjoy your day of doing nothing people, but take a chance. Take a chance on your birthdays, on our birthdays. Your life, your world is not going to fall apart. Trust me. But you need to give yourself that well, maybe someone said I need to find a man or a partner, again, my private club suggestion someone started, I think is probably good. Or, find a great sex toy company. Like, they're all creative these days. So that's the point. You need to somehow generate an internal warmth, not from the weather, but from movement, from a clean and like a clarity of your mind and all of that. So any parting words, Alice, for our Scorpio friends?
You guys are so important. Don't forget about that. You're going to become increasingly important as we just kind of move into 2025 and beyond. So find a place, find a group of friends where, you know, a community where you're going to be very appreciated.
Build your communities, people. Build your communities is what everyone is saying. Scorpio Club needed. I know, Jason. Why don't you start one? And then we will fill our personal information. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I know this week is very strange, but we've got it. We've got it. Trust your intuition, and the moment your intuition fails you, give it a day. We will bounce back. We're resilient. Thank you so much, Alice, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Take care.